In a village where the wind remembered every name, where beauty was admired, envied, and sometimes feared, there lived a woman no one looked at twice. Her name was Abeni. Abeni was not ugly, no, not in the cruel way children whisper or men mock, but she possessed a face the world easily forgot. No songs were sung for her, no heads turned when she passed. And in a village where a woman's wealth often danced with her reflection, Abeni lived like a ghost among the living. But Abeni had a dangerous heart, for inside her grew a hunger, silent, patient, burning. She did not crave gold, she did not crave power. She craved something far more merciless, to be seen. One evening, when the sky blended into dust and the forest began to breathe, Abeni wondered where no villager dared to linger. The old forest, the place where light behaved strangely and shadows did not always belong to their owners. There, beneath a crooked silk-cutting tree, she heard a voice, soft, amused, waiting. Why do you walk with such sorrow, child of dust? Abeni froze. Before her stood a figure neither man nor smoke, its shape shifting like heat above fire. I know your pain, the spirit said gently. You wish to be admired, adored, worshipped. Abeni's throat tightened, for how could it know? What would you give, it whispered, to possess a beauty no eye could resist? Fear battled desire, desire won. Anything, Abeni breathed, and the spirit smiled, a smile that did not comfort. From the ground, the spirit lifted a shadow, not cast, not attached, alive. It moved like dark water. This shadow, the spirit murmured, will wrap you in irresistible grace. Where you walk, hearts will stumble. Where you glance, minds will tremble. Abeni's pulse thundered. But remember, the forest grew still. Shadows are not ornaments, they are death. Before she could speak, the darkness slid beneath her feet and vanished. The next morning, the village gasped, for Abeni, the invisible woman, had transformed. Her skin glowed like morning rain. Her presence commanded silence, but men lost their words, women lost their peace. Even children stared as if witnessing royalty. Wherever she moved, admiration followed like perfume. Abeni had become everything she ever dreamed, desired, celebrated, envied, but shadows remember their owners. Days passed, then weeks, and something began to change. At sunset, the shadow moved differently. At night, it stretched when it should not. Sometimes, it did not mirror her at all. Then came the whispers. I saw a shadow turn before she did. It watches people. It smiles. Fear crept into the village, but Abeni ignored it. Until the night a shadow spoke. She awoke to moonlight, and a voice that sounded like her own, but hollow. You are loved because of me. Could terror grieved her beings? A shadow stood on the wall, detached, watching, and beauty, it hissed softly, must always be fed. Abeni tried to scream. No sound came, for the dead had become dew. By dawn, the village found no trace of Abeni. Only a shadow remained, moving across the ground, searching, waiting for another heart, hungry enough. In Oluwa's Bend, life did not return to normal. How could it? For though Abeni had vanished, something of her remained. At first, it was only unease, goats refusing certain paths, dogs barking at empty spaces, children waking in the night trembling, claiming something stood beside their mats, watching, breathing, waiting. Then came the sightings, a darkness moving against the moonlight, a shape with no body, a shadow, untethered. It glided along walls, slid across compounds, stretched across doorways, searching like a patient predator. The elders gathered, for villages survived many things, but not what cannot be touched. Among the villagers lived a boy named Obi. Obi was not the strongest, nor the bravest, but he possessed something rare. He listened. While others dismissed the fear as superstition, Obi paid attention. He noticed how the shadow avoided firelight, how it lingered near mirrors, how it seemed drawn to those burdened by envy, longing, dissatisfaction. Obi remembered the old stories because every village has one child who does. One night, when the air was thick and restless, Obi did not sleep. He waited, and just as the moon climbed, it came, sliding beneath the door like spilled ink, climbing the wall without sound, a shadow with no owner. Obi's heart pounded, but he did not run. "Who are you?" he whispered. The shadow stilled. Then slowly it turned. Its shape twisted, stretching, forming, until the outline resembled a woman, a familiar woman, Abeni, but wrong, terribly wrong. I am what remains. I am what was old. I am hunger without flesh. The room grew cold. Obi's fear clawed at his chest. Yet curiosity, that dangerous companion, held him still. "What do you want?" The shadow seemed to smile, though shadows have no faces. To be one again, to be carried, to be alive. Then Obi understood. The spirit's bargain had never been about beauty. It had been about survival. Shadows needed hosts, and the death was contagious. The shadow longed, stretching across the floor like liquid night, but Obi leaped toward the fire pot, kicking it over. Flames burst, light exploded, and the shadow recoiled, shrieking without sound. For light, as the elders say, is the oldest enemy of stolen darkness. The village will later speak of that night in hushed voices, of the boy who fought what had no bones, of the shadow that fled into the forest. But Obi knew something the others did not. Such things do not disappear. They wait. And deep within the old forest, beneath the crooked sick cotton tree, the shadow trembled, watching, patient, for somewhere in some restless heart about another Abeni who was already ruined. Obi did not tell the villagers everything. Some knowledge is too heavy for a frightened people. Some truths reaping best in silence. But sleep abandoned him. For once you have heard the shadow speak, darkness is never ordinary again. Night after night, Obi replayed the voice. I am what remains, not a ghost, not a spirit, something older, something far more dangerous. So when the moon grew thin and courage outweighed fear, Obi did what no child and few elders would dare. He went to the forest, alone. The old forest did not welcome visitors. Branches leaned like listening figures. Leaves whispered without wind. Even the air felt washed, yet Obi walked deeper until he reached the crook-sick cotton tree, the place of bargains, the place of mistakes. Show yourself, Obi said, his voice trembling but unbroken. Silence answered. Then, soft laughter, familiar, terrible, from the folds of darkness, the spirit emerged, neither man nor smoke, shifting, unsettling, timeless, child of curiosity, you return what others flee. Obi's skin prickled, but he stood firm. What are you? The spirit circled him like drifting mist. I am keeper of what humans discard. I am collector of what humans waste. I am the refuge of rejected things. Obi frowned. Rejected? The spirit's form rippled, and the forest shadows stared. Tell me, child, when humans crave beauty, what do they despise? When humans seek greatness, what do they abandon? When humans chase light, what do they step upon? Obi's breast caught. Shadows. The forest darkened, not by clouds, by presence. Long before your village breathed it, long before your kind named the sun, we existed, companions of form, proof of light. But humans, the air grew heavy, learned to ignore us, to mock darkness, to fear it, to treat shadows as nothing. And so, the spirit whispered, we learned to hunger. Obi's heart thundered. You trick people. The spirits laughed again, but this time there was no warmth. I offer what they beg for. I grant what they desire most. It is not my fault humans trade wisdom for vanity. Obi's voice sharpened. You are feeding on them. The spirit's shape grew taller, stretching, blending with every shadow in the forest. We do not feed on flesh. We feed on longing, on dissatisfaction, on the beautiful human wound that never heals. Obi now understood the true horror. The spirit did not create monsters. Humans did. And Abeni? Obi asked quietly. For the first time, the spirit grew still. Abeni was suitable. Her hunger was deep. Her emptiness exquisite. She and the shadow became one. A chill crawled through Obi's spine. Can she return? The forest seemed to hold his breath. The spirit leaned close. His voice barely sound. Does a flame return to wood? Does smoke return to fire? Does a shadow return once it learns to live without a body? Obi staggered back, horror dawning. Abeni was not gone. She was transformed. As Obi fled the forest, he did not see the movement behind him. A shape peeling itself from the trees. A familiar outline, watching him go, smiling without a face. For some deaths are never settled. They evolve. Obi ran from the forest, but the forest did not release him. For some encounters mark a soul the way lightning marks a tree. Invisible to others, unmistakable to fate. From that night onward, darkness followed him. Not like an enemy, like a memory that refused to fade. Shadows leaned toward him. Firelight trembled around him. And the elders, though they did not know why, began to watch the boy with uneasy respect. Then the disappearances began, quiet, unexplained. A hunter who never returned. A woman whose heart was found empty. A child whose sleeping mat remained warm, but whose body was gone. And always, witnesses spoke of something impossible. A shadow that moved against the light. Obi knew, long before the elders accepted it, long before fear conquered denial. He had felt a presence. He had sensed the familiar wrongness. Abeni, no longer woman, no longer shadow. Something between, something hungry. One evening as the sun bled into dusk, the village square felt silent. For there, stretching impossibly across the earth, a darkness gathered, twisting, lengthening, rising until it stood upright. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some wept, some fled, for every villager recognized the shape, even without a face. Obi stepped forward, alone, as destiny often demands. "Abeni," he said, and the shadow shuddered, like a name awakening something buried. I was unseen. I was forgotten. Now I am endless. The air grew cold. Light seemed to recall. "You were deceived," Obi said. But the shadow rippled violently. "No, I was revealed. Humans worship beauty. I have become what cannot be ignored." The darkness soared, spreading across the ground, crawling towards the villagers, toward their feet, toward their own trembling shadows. Panic erupted, but Obi did not move, because he remembered something older than fear, something whispered by grandmothers beside dying fires. A truth simple yet absolute: no shadow survives without light. With shaking hands, Obi seized a torch, then another, then another. Villagers watched, confused, terrified. "Bring fire," he shouted. "Bring light." Reluctantly, fearfully, the villagers obeyed. Torches ignited, flames bloomed, light swelled, and for the first time, Abeni screamed, not with sound, but with distortion. A form tearing, shrinking, fracturing, as light devoured the stolen darkness. "You cannot destroy me," the shadow shrieked. "I'm part of you all." Obi's voice thundered across the square, stronger than any child's should be. "No! You are only what you refuse to face." And then he did the unthinkable. Obi stepped into the heart of the shadow. Torch raised, light against darkness, bore against legend. The village vanished in brilliance, a collision of fire and night, a scream that shook the sky, then silence. And the light faded. Obi was gone. Abeni was gone. Only scorched earth remained, and shadows, perfectly ordinary, perfectly still. The elders will speak of it for generations, of the boy who walked into shadow, of the hunger that haunted the village, of the lesson craved into memory. Beware the desires that make you despise your own reflection. Beware the bargains that promise to make you more than human, for even shadows demand balance. And to this day, in villages where moonlight lingers long, children are warned not all shadows follow, some wait. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like, and share. Bye.